Inspiration for our film was the French TV series The Returned and the new film Before I Go to Sleep, which I think there was something quite chilling and disturbing about these films, and we all really like the idea of sort of using a woman who had woken up in a sort of secluded area and had no recollection of where she was, so we wanted to use that. And another inspiration in our film was the last scene where you can see all the photographs of Angela, which was inspired by Before I Go to Sleep.
We adapted this convention our own way by placing Malcolm, the main actor, in front of this display, so that he would appear as a very strange and frightening for the viewer. The objective of this final scene was to make the audience feel very unsettled and concerned about what Malcolm has done, or what he will inflict to Angela.
The convention that we used was the opening sequence of Dexter, which is a TV show, which shows him sort of cutting food and sort of preparing himself for the day, but in quite a sort of stimulating and intense way. So we kind of wanted to take this idea of cutting food, but make it in something sort of psychotic
and deranged,
yeah. But obviously our sort of own version of this wasn't as professionally developed as the original
sequence of Dexter. Yeah. Another convention we used was the famous classic thriller Memento. This was our final inspiration for our film, which was very similar to Before I Go to Sleep, as it portrays a young man who has no recollection of where he is, and he also suffers this memory loss. It's kind of like Before I Go to Sleep, but alternate sexes. After watching these films, we felt really intrigued, about the whole concept of memory loss and how people can kind of just lose it from having it, and we thought that it'd work quite well in the film. We weren't sure how
characters with these sort of conditions were quite interesting, and because there's sort of an uncertainty to you don't know what they're thinking or what's going to happen to them. In our film, we have the character Angela, who's the protagonist of the film.
Yeah.
I'd say at the beginning of the film, she's portrayed as quite vulnerable and naive, especially when the scene of her in the woods and the second scene where she's in the kitchen with Malcolm, the husband.
Yeah.
And you can see from that they have a very sort of domestic relationship.
Yeah, when we made that scene, we really wanted to get a sense of domestic violence. Yeah. We want to show her being scared.
And sort of similarly to Before I Go to Sleep, this is sort of what it was influenced by.
That's kind of where we got our main idea. After watching that film, we kind of developed that and changed it in our own way.
Yeah, and then another powerful female character in our film is PC Brown.
Yeah.
Who is also...
Well, she's the detective for the town where Angela currently is, and she's quite when we meet her on the phone, she's quite stern. She tells Angela what to do. It's sort of a mother-daughter relationship in a way.
She's very powerful in a sense of she's not she is a police officer, but the way she speaks to Angela is she's
but
someone
sort of,
above her.
Yeah.
At the end of the film, we can see that Angela is a sort of changed character. She's a lot more confident.
Yeah, she's come a long way and kind of got out of the domestic
relationship that she was in, and now she's sort of just leading her own life.
Well, that's in the opening anyway.
Yeah.
I think Vertigo Films would most likely be to distribute our thriller, as they work with first-time filmmakers and producers and help them get noticed by the public. Vertigo is also vertically integrated, which means that they make films as well as distribute them.
Yeah.
They also distribute through much of Europe, so this means if, for example, if they did distribute a film for Europe, we would get more money than just from if they distributed from the UK. So then we could possibly mark it above the line instead of right now, which we have to from below the line because we don't have the funds.
Yeah, I also think that if we could also distribute our film through social media, such as like YouTube.
Yeah, which is below the line.
Yeah. I think the primary audience for our thriller would probably be around the ages of 12 to 25, particularly because this is the demographic of sort of heavy online users. And if we had to put an age restriction on our film, it would probably be age rated 12, would you say?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, our film, like, it's psychological, so I wouldn't suggest, someone who was under the age of 12 watching it, particularly because they just wouldn't understand it, but...
And it could be a bit graphic for them, like, mentally, some of the stuff that's happening.
But then, also, our film doesn't feature any sort of, like, violence or sexual behaviour or drug use, so we wouldn't be able to put...
Yeah, it wouldn't be any higher than 12, so we figured out on the BBFC website.
Yeah.
Well, basically, because we're not like a high production company or anything, we can't use above the line advertising, so we don't have the funds to do so. So we would use below the line advertising, which is like sharing links like from YouTube, Facebook, like social media basically, and like the camera angles we used for our film, like right at the beginning was like quite high camera angles to make the main character look quite like vulnerable and like quite small, like shocked, like what's out there and so on. Also with our editing, we tried to make the like each clip quite short to make the audience look like distracted and like distressed.
Yeah, to keep their focus on for longer. We had an incident where we were editing with our conversation and we felt like it went on for too long, so we shortened it so that, like, so when someone watches the opening, they're interested from the beginning. They don't look at it and get bored and want to stop watching. They like the look of it, so they carry on watching, basically.
Yeah, and hopefully, like, after seeing, like, the first 2 minutes of the film, like, the people who do see it would want to watch, like, the whole film and, like, carry on with it. Also, we kind of, like, because we're, like, young teenagers, we try to, like, make our film interesting to us as well, so we, like, mainly targeted the young British teenagers, with, like, the main character we used was a teenager, and, like, it doesn't have, like, violence in it, but it has, like, aspects of violence which will make you, like, interested in watching the film. Also, the music we used was quite dark and, like, mysterious in a way, so, like, the people who would watch our thriller wouldn't be, like, the people who watch, say, for example, like, romantic comedies and so on and so forth.
We kind of used the music to attract a specific audience so that they would know what kind of film it is and what they'd be watching. They kind of, like, see what was going to happen.
The music doesn't really give away, like, all the details of the film, but it gives, like, some aspects away that you know it's not going to be, like, a romantic film. It's going to be, like, a thriller and quite, like, scary in a way.
Yeah. So yeah, the making of this film has really helped me to widen my camera, directing and editing skills. When we filmed our thriller, I was both a director and cameraman, and so was Harold. We, like, intertwined. And yeah, I hadn't really been a director, like, never directed something before, so it taught me a lot about what you have to do. It's quite hard to get everything right, get the actors in the right place, stuff like that. We also, like, experimented a lot with technology more, so with the cameras I'd never really used microphones before, so we used that, and we actually had a problem where I filmed one of the clips and I didn't have the microphone on. So
because we only had one microphone, so we had to, like, share it between clips. So it took longer than, like, we intended it to, like, take, but like, after, like, the end of the day, we got, like, really good at, like, swapping microphones. So it was like, yeah.
Yeah, so that was good for my camera skills. Harold, what you learned about
I
camera?
learned quite a lot about using the glide cam as well, or flow cam. But it was quite difficult. Like first of all, to get it like perfectly stable and centered, because every like little movement you do, like the balance of the like the weights and like the camera just slants to like the left or the right, whichever way. But I've watched like a couple videos on like how to stabilize it, and like in the videos they say like the weights have to be like in the front and the back. But for me, I found it easier if the weights were on the left and the right, which means like it stabilizes it when you're walking as well, instead of just like instead of just going backwards and forwards. It also stabilizes it from like left and right. So like after using that, I feel like quite confident about using GlideCam now. Um, yeah,
Yeah, I realised when I was filming, I had like, when we were filming in the kitchen scene, we realised that the lighting was
yeah.
it was really bright for what we wanted, so I kind of realised that I was more aware of what was happening with the lighting when I was filming this time, so I feel that my camera skills have developed as looking further than what's in the
Yeah,
picture.
especially in the last scene where we had to Hamish sitting with the pictures in front of him. That lighting quite. We had to get like a candlelight, like a candlelight effect, but we used a lamp.
and then we closed all the curtains. And,
So it was a dark room. Like it's meant to make it look spooky and like quite horrifying in a way as well.
I personally think it went really well. And then after all of the filming and making the film, I think I learned a lot about like editing. A lot of it was new for me. I learned loads more like shortcuts on the keyboard. I learned how to edit sound. I'd never really done that before, like detaching audio from a clip and putting it somewhere else. Like we had a few instances with Scarlett. Well, she's actually called PC Brown, the character, talking to Angela. We kind of managed to edit that so like the sounding was right. Well, the sound was right. Obviously, a different clip, so like we put in the sound for a different clip.
Yeah,
kind of hard to explain.
The editing was like very long and tedious, but we did manage to get like what we wanted to do. And like even when we thought we finished editing, we went back and looked over it, and there was like so much more to do, which we had to do.
Yeah,
like every second of that, like every second of a clip matters, and
yeah. Also, like I know we kind of every time we'd look at it, we'd realise that we'd done something wrong. We need to add in more. Like with the whole Hamish scene, just before we finished it, we realised that we should have the music going, and when he drops the glass, we kind of managed to do that well, and I thought that worked really well.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just think I learnt to like be more aware of sound and stuff as well as the lighting on the camera. Okay, so for a preliminary task, what we were told to do was film a clip of a conversation. We had to use the 180-degree rule, which is when you have like a imaginary line and you can only go 180 degrees around it.
You can't cross it.
You use over the shoulder, you use a bit of a mixture of everything. And when we created that task, I feel like we were quite naive of what we had to do to make films, and like with our camera angles we weren't sure, and also we had a problem where the focusing was bad for the with the thing that was out of focus with the depth, like the
depth of field, and like Benji's face wasn't in focus for one of the clips, and the background was.
Yeah, so we had to re-record it quite a few times, but
I also feel like I've learned since like the preliminary task when we edited that was like super easy. Like you just put on the clips, you get the right timing.
Put them into order.
Yeah, whereas when we made our film, we had to do stuff like audio, like detaching audio, putting titles on it, music at the right time. Like there was so many more things. For our preliminary task, the filming was really easy compared to for our thriller, because all we had to do was film like in one room, one conversation. Whereas with our thriller, we had to go out of school premises. Like we filmed on the heath at people's houses.
To film closer up.
Yeah, we had to do more close up, different kind of shots. Like
without using any equipment.
And every shot we took, we had to like retake it like two or three more times just to make sure it was perfect.
Also, on the first day of film, we had to deal with the weather and like the sound, wind blowing, and also it started raining, so we kind of had to stop filming early. So Other stuff we've learnt from the preliminary task, I suppose more independence. Like with the preliminary task, we were kind of told to do it, how to do it. We were helped a lot more with our thriller. However, we did it all by ourselves, and we
especially the editing, because we'd only ever done that once before for the opening of Heathers, so I don't think we were that confident on using it.
Yeah.
But now I'd say after editing our thriller, we're a lot more confident in using Final Cut Pro.
Yeah, so we've definitely learnt a lot since preliminary task.